Hey everybody, Joe Brady back again, and I want to talk about placing and measuring lights when you're doing studio portraits. I want to do this before we actually get into shooting. Now, we'll talk about this more during the actual shooting process as we go through various light shapers, but I want to talk about it more in generality for first. One of my favorite tools for doing a portrait is a big softbox. It's really a go-to. It is very gentle. It's very forgiving. But you do need to know where it's going to go. And the bigger the better. The bigger the light source, however big this light is that's coming on the person, the softer the graduation or gradation from light to dark is going to be. So if I have this big 3 foot by 4 foot softbox, it's kind of covering this much of me, it's going to wrap around better than a small light. So you might not think to do a portrait up this close, but you actually can, and we're actually going to do this during our series. When you're placing your lights, there's generally two things we're trying to mimic, either window light or sunlight, or maybe some kind of artificial indoor light. And that's going to affect your placement of your lights. Now with a window light, with a softbox, which looks like a window, it's shaped like a window, you're expecting it to be kind of the same height of the head or slightly above. Unlike the sun, which we're expecting to be 30, 45 degrees up in the air. So where the catch light's going to go in the eye is generally going to be different. In a softbox, it's going to be more on the side because that's how a window light would hit the eye. If we're mimicking more of an outdoor light, the light's going to be up higher. And then the light's going to be, if you think of the eye as a clock, it's going to be somewhere between 10, 11 o'clock or 1 and 2 o'clock. So with a softbox, I'm going to generally go sideways to my subject. So I come right here, and then there's the placement of the light. How far do I want it from them? And where do I want them front to back? Well, if I just put myself right here and look back at you and hit the shot, hit my light, this would work. Now, how much light is hitting me? Well, this isn't the kind of thing that TTL does really well. It's a big amount of light. I'm wearing a white shirt. I've got a dark gray background. It might average out to 50% gray, which is how TTL works, but I don't want a might. I want to know. So that's where a light meter comes in. Now you can use pretty much any light meter. This is very basic light meter stuff. I've got my Sekonic 308S. Yes, mine's in green. They're only available in black now. I'll also, through this series, use a Sekonic 478. You can use an older one. You can use a bigger one. Doesn't matter. They all work the same. What I'm going to do is I want to measure how much light is here. So on the light meter, I'm going to tell it my ISO. In this case, I'm set for 100. I'm going to set my shutter speed. Now, here's something that might not be obvious. Shutter speed's not important because all of the light on your subject, unless you have a very bright studio, is coming from here, not from the overhead lights. I would have to have a shutter speed down around a 10th or a 15th of a second before the studio incandescent lights start to even show up and give me a little bit of a percentage. So if I'm at 160th of a second or 250th or 100th, it doesn't matter. Why? Because the duration of the flash, which is providing 100% of the light, as far as your camera's concerned, is going to be 900,000th of a second, something like that. So it doesn't matter what your camera shutter speed is. This is going to freeze the motion. So how do I measure? Well, that's where a light meter comes in. Because what a light meter does is it measures the light hitting a place. It doesn't care what color the thing is you're photographing. Doesn't care what the background is. It's just going to tell me what are the numbers for the correct exposure with this light to here. So if I want to make sure this part of my face is exposed correctly, I'm at 100 ISO, 160th of a second. I hit the measure button, put it up to my face, hit the test button on the Strobe Wizard remote, and it comes in and it says, in this case, F32. Why? Because I have this thing right on top of me, and yeah, it's probably up a little too high. So I'm just going to hit the power down. I've got the modeling light on. This is full power. A little bright for the video. Let's turn it down to proportional. Okay, that's better. So I turned it down to proportionally. So it's now one stop up from all the way down. And let's see what that gives us. Again, hit the measure button, and that gives me F11. Perfect. Now, where do I place my subject in this light? If I go right here, I'm right in the middle of the softbox. I'm basically using the back of the softbox to light the back of me. Well, the back of me is not in the picture. the front of me is. And I've got this front edge right out here. Now the front edge is producing light, and it is sending light to me, but it's stopping about right here because it's not out far enough. So what we're going to do is something called feathering. What that means is I'm going to take the light and I'm actually going to put it so it goes past me. It's actually pointing right here. Now inside these softboxes, they're silver. Big reflective surfaces. The light is going everywhere, but all of the inside surfaces are light sources as well. So this big silver thing, now that's way out here with me kind of towards the back of the softbox, now with this way out here, now it can come and wrap all the way around really to my far ear by doing it this way. Remeter, let's see if there's a difference. And it is. I lost 2/3 of a stop. I'm at F9 right now. But by doing this, the transition from light to dark is going to be much softer, and that's called feathering. That's really important. Now, if I wanted to set up a light ratio, let me move this one over a bit. Let's say this is going to be my main light, and this is the portrait that we're going to shoot. But I want some light on the side of my head and the side of my shoulder to add a little bit of separation out the background. So for that, I have another light sitting right here. It just has a basic 7-inch reflector on it. In this case, I'll put it up a little bit higher and I'll have it shooting down. Okay, so now I have this light right here. I turned the power all the way down. Let's go ahead and I'll meter my shoulder here. So I hit the measure button. And by the way these work is when I hit the measure button, these will just sit around waiting for 90 seconds until they see the flash and then they'll reset. But I hit the measure button. Ooh, I got to turn that flash on. This is my number 2 flash. If I don't want this one firing, I can just hit the strobe wizard to channel 2 and only this light fires. So again, measure, take my reading, and it gives me F13. Why? Because it's a bare reflector and it's very close. So I want to cut down on that light a lot. But it's fairly close and I want to keep it kind of in a narrow area. So I'm going to put a grid on the reflector. So here's a little 7-inch grid for the reflector, and you can see as I turn it to the side, it makes me disappear. What the grid does is it takes the light and narrows the beam. In addition, when doing that, it also cuts down on some of the light coming through. So we'll just put that right in there. I didn't change anything else. Get a reading now again, and that brings it down to F10. Still a little hot, so I'm just going to push this a little further away. And you actually don't have to go that far away to have a light drop a bit. I am now about 3 feet away from me. So I hit my reading. Now I'm down to 6.3. So 6.3 there. Let me come over here and get my reading on my face again. F11 there. So let's see, how many stops is that? Well, this is where knowing stops really helps. Let's count down from 11. And we'll just use the numbers that would happen on your camera. So F11, 10, 9, 8. That's 1 stop. 7, 1, 6, 3. That's 2/3 of another stop. So these are now 1 2/3 of stops apart, which is 1/3 stop short of a 4-to-1 light ratio. Great. That's the beauty of having a light meter and measuring your lights. And by the way, if I want to bring everything up, I did measure here. I already forget what the number is. What did we say it was? F11? Yeah, F11. Let's say I want to go up a little bit. Well, I can switch the strobe wizard to all, and let's see if I want to go up 2/3 of a stop. I'm just going to hit up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, come up 2/3 of a stop. 2/3 of a stop should bring F11. Next up is 13, and then 14. So F14 would be 2/3 of a stop up from 11, and we also brought that one up at the same time. So let's get our reading again, and you can't see it. F14 here. Watch. Wait. Can I show you? Can I show you? Can I show you? Nope. There's no light there. Okay. Sorry, you got to trust me on that one. It is. I don't know if you can see it on the video like this, but it's F14. Maybe if you zoom in. So for a softbox, again, think of it as a window. If you learn to feather, and we're going to do this a lot with our videos where we go over softboxes, get the softbox out in front. The other advantage of feathering is this is a gray background, and you can make a gray background go from very light by having the light pointing at both your subject and the background to almost black by putting it away from the background, getting your subject out, and using the feathering ability of the light to illuminate your subject. Let's take a look at some other reflectors and how to set them up.